Hello, friends. Few of you are here. Happy to see you. Yes, you heard the Bold Sports basketball beat theme music. I like to do that to buy myself a little time to let you file in and so that I can post the link out to Twitter just so that more of you can see my handsome substituting face in for Boiler Dowd. Not that post games are exclusively his domain, but you're used to seeing him wrap things up. He's off on one of his junkets. He's somewhere near Caribbean blue waters. So, for those of you in the 2,000-mile swath of the country who are dealing with this incoming, or maybe it's already hit you, awful weather, um, you can think about him having a Mai Tai, shirtless. Um, I don't know if you guys think he's a one umbrella drink guy or maybe he has two umbrellas. What color are the umbrellas in his drinks? Um, I think a lot of people would say pink. I would probably go purple. Um, he likes to zig and zag, depending on what everyone else is doing. But yeah, so he's not available for today. I don't think he was able to watch the game. I think he was listening on the varsity app, is what he told us. And he said, it sounds like defense is optional again. And I think that's not a terrible assessment. I don't think Purdue's effort was terrible by any stretch. I'll talk about that. I'll try to give you guys a quick post game and tell you what I thought of Purdue losing to Illinois today at home. Before I do that, I'd like to thank our friends at Home Field Apparel who created this lovely quarter zip that I'm wearing. The day that Indiana won the national championship, they had national championship stuff up for Indiana. I assume that means the Purdue Final Four stuff from 2 years ago will be getting in soon. I'm guessing. I don't know, but I haven't seen it yet. So that's a little unusual. Seems a little odd, but you should still get stuff from them because they got a lot of cool stuff. Um, Also, when you're on campus, especially if you were there today, hopefully you have already gone to AJ's, head towards the fire station, go to Vine Street, go into AJ's, enjoy yourself. That part of your day will not be a letdown as I knock things over on my desk. Um, AJ's, burgers, beef, beer. Might get a Boiled Sports Magnet in your drink. We'll see. So Purdue loses today, 88-82. You probably watched because it's a Saturday, and I know a lot of us are able to make time much more easily on a weekend. And obviously knew this was a big game coming in. They're all big games in the Big Ten, right? But hosting Illinois, who you know is a threat for the conference, you know that they have a particular thing for Purdue. They hadn't won at Purdue. I think it was 2020, and if you recall, of course, because of COVID, we kind of have all sort of been able to just erase that one from our memories. But that was probably Purdue's last not good season, right? But that was the last time they won in Mackey. So 6 years since they won a game at Mackey. And honestly, from the start, I thought Purdue's energy was better, certainly better than the West Coast games where they looked really disjointed for long stretches early and seemed to let teams that they were better than hang around. Purdue, you know, got off to a decent start, got out to, I believe, an 11-point lead in the first half. It's never good when you lose at home. Never good when you lose at home as a top five team. Purdue never loses in Mackey, or rarely. And then when you lose a game that you lead by double digits, that's never good either, right? And, the thing Purdue's having trouble with right now, it's becoming a theme, and this is not like Purdue teams, in my opinion. This is not like what we've seen in recent years, this inability to close, right? Um, 2 straight games. I mean, they had a lead late. I forget what the run was there at the end by UCLA. I've sort of already blocked that one out because Purdue didn't deserve that win really at UCLA, right? Like they almost pulled it out despite not playing great. And UCLA went on that little run to end the game. Purdue had a lead. What was it, 4, 5 points, 6 points, something like that? I think it was 6 in the last couple minutes and just didn't score again. Today, this afternoon, I don't know if you all have looked at this. I put this on Twitter. With 4:36 to go in the game, Purdue had a 5-point lead. It was 73-68. And so Illinois had 68 points, guys, with just over 4 minutes to go, 4.5 minutes to go. And they finished with 88 points. Yes. So they went on a 20-9 run to finish that game. Starting that off, I believe that was right when there was that flagrant call on Clough that gave them 2 free throws and the ball, right? They made, I said it, erroneously, I said on Twitter, that was a 5-point gift. It was 4 points because he missed one of the free throws. So they made one of the free throws, then got the ball, then hit a 3. So suddenly 4 points right there. Excuse me. I'm all choked up about this loss. No, um, the so it was a 20-9 run in the final 4.5 minutes. So those of you, and I'm one of the people who's always been like, everybody take a breath, take a breath. Purdue going into today was 17-2, and I'll talk about this a little bit too. But there's a lot of Purdue fans out there that are always waiting for the shoe to drop and are already chalking up a collapse, right? When Purdue was 17-2 and 7-1 in the Big Ten. But what I will say has a lot of merit is when you can't close games, right? Good teams step on the throat. They finish them off, even against good opponents. Illinois is very good. They're very, very good. Like, don't be mistaken here. They're 8-1 in the Big Ten. They're 17-3 overall. They're really good. They are staggeringly tall, long team. Like, I can't tell how many times I looked out there and like I'm looking and I'm like, man, look at these 3 big guys, 4 big, 5 big guys. I'm like, everyone's huge. My son looked it up, and I don't know where he found this instantly when I said that, but he said their average height is 80 inches, which is an interesting stat to find, measured in inches. That means their average height is 6'8". I don't know how that compares. I just know it's a lot. If your average height is 6'8", that's a big team. All their guys, and that's modern basketball, right? It's modern positionless basketball, right? Everyone's big, everyone can rebound, everyone can shoot, everyone's long. Illinois got some dudes, man. They really, I mean, my goodness, they shot the lights out. I think what's interesting, and I'll of course give credit to Keaton Wagler, right? Wagler. I'm probably going to say that wrong. It sounded like they were saying Warbler, right? But it's Wagler. Anyway, he had 46 points, 13 of 17 from the field, 9 of 11 from deep, and 11 from 13 from the line. My goodness, like that's incredible. That is incredible. He also had 4 assists in there too, but a guy shooting 82% from 3. If you're one of those Purdue fans who's going to, say, hey, these things happen, you could easily make the point that, okay, if the guy doesn't go for 46, right? If he goes for 35, Purdue easily wins the game, right? You can certainly talk yourself into that. And I think that's not completely invalid because is a guy going to be, in fuego like that for the entire game? He played 39 minutes and he was on fire the entire time. He was 13 of 17 from the field, guys, and 9 of 11 from deep. I'll repeat that. That's incredible. His career high going into today, I think, was 22 or 23. He had exceeded that by halftime. I think he had 24 at the half, and he had then another 22 in the second half, which is also a mark of a great player, right? Like a lot of times guys will do that, and then they have like 8 in the second half or 6 or something, right? Where you're like, oh, still a good game, but a defense adjusted maybe and did something to make a change. Purdue was not able to do that. I'm not going to say they didn't obviously know what he was doing, but they didn't do anything visibly. And again, this is coming from a certainly amateur eye, but they didn't seem to be face guarding him. He seemed to get a lot of open looks. A couple of people were talking about, oh, he made some deep threes. Okay, he made a couple of those, but he also had a lot of wide open looks. And if you're a really good shooter and you're feeling it, you're going to hit those, right? That's just what's going to happen, right? I don't think you can expect a guy to shoot 82% from 3. But when a guy's on like that, most of you have probably played basketball. Like you keep feeding him, right? And if he keeps making him, you're just going to keep feeding him. He's a 45% shooter in general, which is pretty good, right? From the field, he's 45% for the season. And he is, according to the stats, he's 39.4% from 3. Okay, so he was a bit above his season average, his typical kind of game. Very good player, freshman. It's incredible game. Probably the best individual game this year, right? I don't know how long he's going to stay in college, but man, he's going to be a problem. So lot of credit. That was an incredible game, and there's not much you can say to take away from that. Interestingly, Illinois only had one other guy in double figures. Merkovic had 12. Everybody else was single digits. But that's what happens, right? When the guy gets on fire, carries you. And he had 40. I think he had 40 when they only had like 68 points. So at that point, he was scoring most of their points, right? In the first half, there was a point where I think when he got to 20, they only had like, 30 points or 32 or something like that. So it did feel like often those games for me feel like when a guy does that, the game's going to still go to the other team because one guy usually can't do it, right? He's got to have some help, right? Turned out he did get some help because down the stretch there, when they had that 20-9 run, starting off with the flagrant, they hit 4 straight threes on 4 straight possessions down the floor. That'll swing a game pretty fast, right? 12 points in 4 possessions is I'm doing that math right? Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty hard to overcome. Purdue tried to overcome it. I will say I don't think Purdue's offensive effort was bad, and I don't think they looked out of sorts offensively. I mean, again, not a great. I mean, we'll look at the numbers here, but I guess it was Braden Smith keeping them in it, right? Because he had 27. He was 11 of 16 from the field, 2 of 3 from deep. The guy was himself, right? 27 points, 12 assists, 3 rebounds. He had a steal. He only had 1 turnover. Purdue only had 3 turnovers for the game. So I look at that kind of stuff too, and I say, a guy went for 46. Purdue only turned the ball over 3 times. You start to find your way to talk yourself into, hey, this kind of stuff happens in the Big Ten, right? However, Purdue was also out-rebounded. Let me look this up. 33-19. Can't happen, right? That just can't happen. Nobody on Purdue had a lot of rebounds. The leading rebounder was Clough with 4. 3 guys had 3, and 3 guys had 2, and that was it. So if you want to find your difference, sure, a guy going for 46 is a big one, but not being able to rebound the ball against a very tall team, that happens. People have talked all year about, athletic guards give Purdue trouble. And I will also put this caveat out there. Athletic guards give every team trouble, right? It's very hard to combat that. So that's one of those catch-all statements people like to throw out there to sound like they know a lot about basketball. It's true, but it's also like, yeah, athletic guards, if they're really athletic and they're really skilled and they're having a good game, that's going to be tough to beat. If you fold in also not being able to rebound and giving them multiple chances, a lot of offensive rebounds by Illinois, that's your formula, right? And Purdue only loses by 6 despite all that. So I'm vacillating back and forth on, is this some sort of a disaster? No. You knew Purdue was going to lose a few Big Ten games. There was no doubt they were going to lose what? I think between 3 to 5 Big Ten games you knew no matter what, right? They started 7-0. They're 7-2 now. They're getting into that stretch. It's about to get a little tougher. It's starting to get a little hairy. So you had this one. You had the at UCLA, which was going to ramp it up a little. You had home against Illinois. Now they go to Indiana next. Then they go to Maryland and Oregon. So theoretically should be a little bit of a break in terms of how stiff the competition is. Still got to win them, though. And then they go to Nebraska, and that's where the stretch gets tough, right? They have at Nebraska, at Iowa, versus Michigan, versus Indiana, versus Michigan State. That's the 5 after the next 3, if that makes sense. So, you got to go down and win in Indiana, which teams have been doing. You can definitely win that game. There's no doubt. And you got to win at Maryland and Oregon. I really kind of think that if you want to still have a shot at this Big Ten title, you got to win the next 3, right? You got to be 10-2 going into that really tough 4-game stretch, because realistically, are you going to win 3 of those 4? Or is 2 of 4 kind of what you're hoping, if you're being honest, what you're hoping you're getting at? That's 2 more losses, and all of a sudden you're at 4 losses. And if that happens, you've got 3 games to go. And if they finish 16-4 and they don't win the Big Ten, I think all of us would take it. I think what people are more concerned about is the things we've seen with Purdue failing to close, right? It's like when you're getting older and you go to the doctor and they say, "Are you having trouble finishing?" Boiler Dad deals with this. I'm talking about peeing, just to be clear. But no, it's. I kind of find myself constantly telling, because there's that whole subset of Purdue fans out there that you know what I mean. The guys who are like not very old, I don't think, because they've never known anything but wild success. So when they've got a 17-3 Purdue team, they're talking about how the bottom is dropping out and everything's awful. And again, we've talked many times. You got to enjoy the ride a little bit. You got to there's going to be losses. There's going to be some tough beats. It's frustrating. It's not a great finish. Again, Purdue had a lead, had a double-digit lead. It's a game you have to try to win, right? Like, you got to win this game because it's a good resume builder. You're beating a good team. And you have to close these when you have that chance. So no, I'm not trying to minimize that. This is a tough one to take. But I do think these things happen, and you just hope they don't happen more than 3 or 4 times throughout the season. If that happens in a 30 game season, that's kind of understandable. But I don't think this was one where Purdue came out flat and looked like they didn't, have their game. I felt like they swung with them. It was punch for punch, especially down the stretch there. I liked how Purdue responded. I like Omer Mayer's game. I liked Braden Smith just saying, nope, I'm not going to let this happen, until they hit those 4 threes in a row. And I mean, what can you do at that point? It's kind of, you can play better defense is the answer. You can get in the way. You can stop that somehow. And they just were not able to. Quickly, I do want to mention, I just mentioned Mayer, 21 minutes. This might be the first time this has happened. He played more minutes than Fletch Lawyer. So those of you who've been wanting Fletch to sit down, this has got to be close to a season low in minutes. He had 20 minutes played. He only had 6 points, 1 of 5 from the field. I don't think anybody has denied that there's a problem right now. His flow is not there, and a lot of people have been clamoring for him to sit down. And the truth is, you know, the reason I think that Painter hasn't isn't just out of loyalty. It's because shooters, when the thing they do is shoot, taking them off the floor is not really the solution, right? The one strength they have is to fill it up and to get hot again. You got to let them shoot usually, right? And they've been trying to do that, but he's been. Let me take a look here. He is 3 for his last 24 from deep. Whew. That's really not good. And I think it's finally starting to. I mean, Painter did not have him out there in crunch time. I thought that was interesting. Mayer was out there at the end, the last couple minutes. Mayer, I didn't finish that thought. He had 11 points on 4 of 8 shooting, 3 of 6 from deep. Really liked what he was adding. And that's exactly what you want out of him, right? In 21 minutes, for him to put up those numbers is terrific. That's what you need, right? But you also need Lawyer to play his game. You need Cox to play his game. He only had 6. Clough only had 9. Clough was not great defensively, right? Trey Kaufman-Renn, again, 12 points, 2 rebounds, 4 fouls. Not a terrible performance, but not what you want out of a preseason all Big Ten player, right? So, yeah, the bumps are there. The problems are there. I don't deny any of this. And yet, despite all that, Purdue almost wins that game. I guess my point where I'm landing is it's not that far away, right? And it's weird to think that these guys, not like Trey Kaufman-Renn and Fletch Lawyer, are going to stay in the tank, right? It doesn't make any sense, right? Unless something's not right, unless someone's not, unless there's an injury we don't know about or something. I don't think there is. It could just be the dog days, right? It could be the middle of a long season. And, if they're going to play a few clunkers in January and play better as the season goes down the stretch, that's fine too. Boiler Dad has said this many times. You want them playing their best ball as they go into March, right? That's really the thing. You don't want them petering out or starting to have the clunkers in March. You want it to be now if you have to pick a time, right? So Purdue is 17-3, 7-2 in the Big Ten. They are now in, I guess, 3rd place. Is that right? Yeah. Nebraska won again. They're 9-0, 20-0 overall. You guys probably heard me talk about Nebraska deserves more credit than they've been getting. Even to now, I think they were 7th or 8th in the nation. They should be top 5, and they're probably going to jump Purdue because Purdue's lost twice this week. Not probably, they're definitely going to jump Purdue. And now I'm seeing them being mentioned as a 1 seed. So if they keep doing this, they absolutely should be a 1 seed. Their next game, I believe, is at Michigan. So we're going to, I said this earlier in the year, if they won at Illinois, take them seriously. They did. Then they beat Michigan State. And now their 3rd big test is going to be Michigan. I would be picking Michigan if it were me. I just don't think this can continue. I mean, undefeated, 20-0. They're going to lose to somebody. But, man, Nebraska's been very good. They're 9-0. Purdue does get a swing at them in Lincoln. Michigan's 8-1. Michigan State's 8-1. Illinois is 8-1. And then Purdue is 7-2. So Purdue's actually technically in 5th place. If you look at it from that point of view, they'd have to jump 4 teams to win the conference. And yet they're only 2 games back. So a lot can happen. And a lot of these teams are playing each other, as I mentioned, in the next couple of weeks. So those are my thoughts on the game. Let me look at a few of your comments, if I can find the chat. Let's see here. Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for coming in to ugly basketball since Braden set the assist record at Cole, says Boilers 012. Yeah, I would agree. Not ugly from Braden. He's been himself. He had that ankle sprain, clearly rolled his ankle. I would say my very amateur medical opinion, it's not a high ankle sprain because he wouldn't have come back that fast if it truly was. It's just a, whatever, I guess it'd be a grade 1, right? Like a basic run of the mill. Those of you who played basketball, those ankle sprains where it feels like you're never going to walk again when it happens. And then after a little bit of time, in his case, about 4 or 5 minutes, he was able to come back out there again. But the dude's tough. He's tough, and it hurts like hell. And his knee's probably still bothering him. Yeah, and when he collapsed to the floor, that was as quiet as Mackie gets, right? That was terrifying. So it's great news that it's just a sprain, definitely. But yeah, that was scary. Jim Garfinkel points out, instead of 25-year-olds beating us, now it's 18-year-old freshmen. Yeah, good point. Got to play the guys on your schedule, right? Let's see. Swartz-Solable says, trying to actually deny the ball might have been an option. Give up some things, but don't let him dictate any shot he wanted. I agree. I agree. You got to find a way to adjust. You got to start giving them different looks, putting different guys on them. He's the only guy filling it up for them. So yeah, I agree. You got to do different things. Noel M says, hello, friend. Hello. Who's Johnny says, it looks like Fletcher's going to the bench. I don't know if you mean as a starter. I would be shocked, frankly. I don't think Painter's going to do that. I think he's going to give him every chance to break out of this and keep the streak going of starts. I don't think there's any chance that he doesn't start. So anyone who's rooting for that, I wouldn't expect that. I think you saw tonight, though, 20 minutes of play is a sign that he's going to get less if he's not going to contribute offensively. And I think you have to do that, right? You're going to have to. Fun stat of the game from Young Racing. Illinois outshot Purdue 18-3 from the free throw line in the second half. That is a hell of a stat. I like mine of 20-9 in the last 4.5 minutes. I don't know if anybody kind of pieced that together, but going from 68 to 88. When you look at a game and you just look at little snapshots and it's like show the scoreboard at 4.5 minutes to go and they have 68 points and Purdue seems to be getting their hands around it. And then they scored 20 points in those last 4.5 minutes. You know, little under a quarter of their points in the last 4 minutes of the game. You know, I don't know what to say to that. Who's Johnny says Mayer taking Lawyer's spot. I think he's going to take it more frequently. I agree. Ed Albanese, the Gummy Bear King, says, who's going to say it? What needs to change? Be brave. I don't think a ton needs to change, honestly. I think they need to play better defense. And if you're not a good defensive team, and I don't think I'm ready to say they're not a good defensive team, still some active hands, some good steals. I think you need more rim protection again, and I think you need more closeout defense again, right? I think when a team's bombing you like that, and I don't know if I mentioned that stat, Illinois as a team shot 18 of 38 from deep. And of course, that's helped out by the one guy going 9 of 11. But you have to what they're doing well. You have to try to take it away, right? So I think Purdue's capable of that. This is not a team that's as bad defensively as the one a few years ago. I'm trying to remember which team that was. That was pretty good. We had high hopes for. Might have been the Jaden Ivey team that just was like really talented, but shockingly not good at defense at all. This is a better defensive team than that, and it's a better defensive team than last year. I think Clough did not have a good game. I don't know what other way to say it. He did not have a great defensive game. Let's see here. Who's Johnny says, it looks like we're missing the athleticism of Miles Colvin and Cam Heide. I mean, yeah, if you want more athleticism, those were very athletic guys. That's why they were recruited. It's a big reason why Painter wanted them in here. But there's nothing you can do about that. If they want to go be sixth men or eighth men or whatever on other teams when they'd probably be in the mix for starting at Purdue at some point in their career, you can't do anything about that. You can't look backwards and worry about that. Let's see here. Every player, Greg Mitchell says, every player is not doing enough. We hit that point in the season. We're going to find out who's going to go get the victories. Other than Braden, every other player isn't doing enough. Fletch and DJ particularly. Yeah, can't argue with that. High ceiling for this team. Brendan Alexander says it sucks, but they truly look lost at times. I love Fletch, but he's completely MIA. So much to fix. I think there's stuff to fix. I don't think there's so much to fix. I think, again, so many things could have bounced a different way today. Like giving up 46 to a guy, even when you're not playing great defense, is not usually going to happen. So I do think Purdue has to get, obviously Fletch has to get going. Obviously Trey Kaufman-Renn has to get going. The rest of it, I don't think anyone would say that guys like Cox didn't have a great game today, but he's not going to have a great game every night. He's been very solid. Mayer's been getting better and is doing what you want him to do. Braden is Braden. So, and DJ honestly has been coming along, I think. I think we've seen some moments where he's given some great minutes in some games. So, yeah, you needed more from someone else tonight. What have we talked about in the past, right? Like this team is deep enough that usually if one or two guys aren't having a game, somebody else comes in and does something, right? Nobody else seemed to really get it going, right? It was just Braden. Benter had 5 points. I liked his minutes out there, but he didn't, nobody else really rose to the occasion. Nobody else had more than, like I said, Kaufman-Renn was the second leading scorer with 12, and it was kind of another one of those quiet 12s. And it needs to be more. It needs to be more, especially if nobody else is stepping up. You need your big guy, your big guns, your preseason all Big Ten players to do stuff. And when none of them do and nobody else steps up, these all kind of a part of the formula. Ed Albany says we play IU next, another loss. What do you think? No, I think Purdue's unquestionably a better team than IU. I don't, could they lose? Absolutely. It's tough to win down there. But teams have been doing it. Teams have been coming back on IU down there. Um, you know, you could look at that stretch I gave you and say, hey, any of these could be losses, and they really could. Like, there are programs that would lose all of those games, right? I think you have to have some faith in the leadership on this team and in the coaching staff on this team that that's not going to be the case. Let's see here. What other comments? I want to just take a couple more because I've had enough talking about this game. Let's see. Double says the first 14 points were Wagler's. Yeah, I'm not going to check that, but I think you're right, because I do remember them being at, like, there was a point where it was like 14 of 19, or when they had, or whatever it was. Like I said, he had like 24 when they had like 30 or something like that. It was a crazy run. Zach Fellis says this team is not that good. Overrated as F. He also says his Flesh Lawyer is trash. I mean, those things are just not true. This team's not overrated. They're very good. To say this team's not that good, I mean, you're not watching a lot of basketball if you don't think they're good. They've had some really good wins. They're in a little bit of a swoon, and when your swoon has you losing 2 games in a week, this is the spot we're at as far as being spoiled Purdue fans. We really are, because we're not used to seeing this ever happen. We're not used to it, so we're spoiled. So we get mad when it happens. Let's see here. Blah, blah, blah. What else? Brandon Alexander points out that Purdue went 24-12 last year. So, meaning people need to cool it a little bit, right? This is a very good team. People pointing out that, this team was projected as a national championship contender at the beginning of the season. They were, and I think they still are, guys. I mean, I know when you see games like this, you think, well, that's not a national championship team. And it's so hard to look at a team and say, oh, that's a national championship team. Like, yeah, there's a handful that you're like, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all to see them. But if you look at the top, say, 8 to 10 teams, I mean, especially with the balance that there is of good teams in college basketball right now, if you look at those top 8 to 10 teams, you shouldn't be shocked at thinking of any of them being in the Final Four, right? You really shouldn't. And you're going to be proven right or wrong if you're one of these. If you're still on the Purdue train, or if you're jumping off, you're going to get to see down the stretch here, this stuff sorts itself out, right? Like, if they win, 80% of those big games I was mentioning as they come down the stretch, then you're going to look back on this and say, yeah, that was a tough night, tough day. It happens. But again, it's the Big Ten, guys. This stuff happens. They're not going to steamroll through everybody. It's just not possible, unless you're Nebraska, and then I guess it is. But they are going to have Nebraska's schedule a little more backloaded. They're going to have some tougher games. They're definitely going to lose a few. I still think, I think 4 losses. Believe it or not, I still think that's going to have you in contention for the Big Ten. I think 3, you're right there. Purdue has 2 now, so you can't really lose too many more. But I still think Nebraska is going to take at least 3. I really do believe that. And I'm a believer in Nebraska. I think they're really good. I think they're legit. But I just think everybody has a week or 2 like that. So, that's the kind of thing. That's just the way it goes in the Big Ten. One thing I did want to mention that I just thought of as I was scrolling through comments, it was the Hammer Down Cancer game. Obviously a great cause. Everybody knows the Tyler Trent story. One comment on those uniforms. I saw a few people I saw someone on Twitter say they look like rec league uniforms. And I have to say, maybe they do, but I still think they're the best Hammer Down Cancer uniforms they've worn yet, because the other ones looked like kind of completely out of nowhere, made up sort of uniforms. And these were a play on the retro, the throwbacks that everybody likes. And I thought that was a cool way to do it, just to make it slightly different, but look kind of like the retros that all the players obviously love. So I think they're the best Hammer Down Cancer shirts ever, jerseys. And if you have a chance to donate for this cause, please do that. My wife actually is her closest friend from college is going through. She's at stage 4 lung cancer right now, and I think whenever you see these events, or when you see the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, when people hold up the signs of the people that they know who've been affected by cancer, that is at first it seemed hokey to me, and then it seems like, man, that is overwhelming when you think about that. Like, everybody knows people, right? So it's a great cause to support. It's an awful thing. It's a scourge on our world. And, if you have a way to donate, if you have anything you can donate, Purdue is a great place to trust that money for cancer research. They do one for football, they do one for basketball. I'm glad they do. Makes me proud. And that stuff. I know everybody knows someone. So I think I'm going to leave you guys with that sort of morose thought. Please be safe this weekend. I think I can say that to most of the country because we're all dealing with this cold and snow. I've even seen Florida and places where I used to live in South Texas is under freeze advisories. It's like, end of days. It's like, what was that movie? The Day After Tomorrow, when everything just freezes over. I remember going to see that movie and my sister said, boy, it was like watching the Weather Channel for 2 hours. And it kind of was. Purdue is 17-3. They are 7-2 in the Big Ten. They next play Indiana, but the season rolls on, guys. You win in Indiana, you win convincingly there, you're going to feel a lot better. So keep that kind of thing in mind. Thanks for joining us. Visit Home Field Apparel. Visit AJ's.